Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel if you're new here. My name is Mary and today's video is going to be my Sorry Picks, my May TBR. If you're new to my channel, you might not know, but if you've been here before, then welcome back. Every single month on my channel, I play Sorry to pick my TBR. It's my TBR game. And essentially, the first card that I draw picks how many cards that I'm going to draw and how many books I'm going to have to read. If I land on if I pull a Sorry card, then I have to add another book to my TBR. And other than that, I pull cards, go around the board, and I have prompts on each of the spaces. So without further ado, let's find out how many books that I'm reading in May. Okay, so we're starting with yellow on the SciFi spot where we landed last time. And let's see how many books we're reading in May. 5. That's not too bad. So it looks like May is going to be a lighter month. I drew a 5, so I'm going to be picking 5 books for my Sorry TBR, unless I get a Sorry, and then I'll add books, as I mentioned. But let's figure out the first prompt in the first book that I'm going to read. And the first card is Move Backwards 4. Which puts us right back on SciFi. The first prompt that I landed on was SciFi, and for this I'm going to be reading This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Motar. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but this is a really short book, so I'm happy to put this on my TBR this month, and it's a book that I've been meaning to read for quite a while. I've heard some really good things about it, but essentially, from what I understand, this book is about someone who is writing to their lover. I believe it's a sapphic romance, but it's set after a world ends and they're in different times. I don't know if this includes time travel or not. Because it's so short, I feel like people don't really talk a lot about what it's about. But I've heard that it's really confusing, kind of weird, and really, really good. So I think this is definitely one of those books that you either really love or you really hate, and I'm hoping that I really love it. So I'm very excited to be picking this one up in May. And then move forward 8. SciFi again. The next prompt that I landed on was SciFi again. So for this, I'm going to be reading The Wanderers, or just Wanderers, I suppose, by Chuck Wendig. And this book is quite the opposite of the other one. It's much larger for scale. But from what I understand, this is about, I think, like a disease that starts hitting certain people of the population and causes them to be unconscious but sleepwalking. And they're all going to a similar location. So this kind of sounds to me a little bit like The Book of M, a little bit like The Stand by Stephen King as well. And both of those books I've read and enjoyed. So I'm hoping that I also like this one. I really like a post-apocalyptic world, or a current apocalyptic world where people are experiencing some weird side effects from something and trying to figure out why this thing is happening to them. And I'm also one of those people that doesn't have to understand why things happen. I think if a story can carry itself without telling you, then that's just as good as figuring out the solution. I think there's oftentimes these types of stories are more impactful to me if there's not a solution or a cause that can be narrowed down. So I'm hoping that I really enjoy this one. It's super long, which I think is part of the reason it's reminding me of The Stand. How many pages do we have here? Almost 800 pages. So hopefully I'm able to knock this one out. Move forward 5. A book that's less than 150 pages. The next prompt that I landed on is a book less than 150 pages. So again, another really short read. And for this one, I'm going to be reading We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda how do you pronounce that? Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie? I don't know how that's pronounced. I'm sorry. I read Americana by her back in 2018, I think. I really enjoyed that book, but it was a long book. And I believe this is just essentially an essay version of her TED Talk. So I'm planning on getting this as an audiobook from my library. And it's really short. I think it's 70 pages or 60 pages, maybe even less than that. But essentially how I picked this one was I went on Goodreads and I sorted my books on my TBR on Goodreads by page length and found the ones at the bottom and picked one from that. So hopefully I enjoy this. I do typically, like I said, enjoy her writing, and I have seen her TED Talk, so I'm wondering if it's going to be the exact same, but we'll see. Move forward 12. A romance. The next prompt that I landed on was to read a romance, and for this, I'm really excited to finally pick up The Damned by Renee Ahdieh, which is the sequel to The Beautiful. I believe this is just a duology. So this one is the one that is actually a trilogy, not a duology. So I got that backwards. But I am really excited to read this. It's about vampires in New Orleans. It's a love story between our main character, who is French. What is her name? Celine. Our main character, Celine, and she is new to New Orleans in the first book after leaving France for some sketchy things that she's sort of done. And it's just about these people, and there's this court, the Court of Lions, and they are magicians and illusionist type people, but also like underground criminals kind of. It's really fun. I really enjoyed the first book. I understand that it's not for everybody, but I do really like it. So I'm not going to really talk too much about obviously what's going to happen in this book because it would spoil what happened in the first book, but I think there will be a little bit of a love triangle at play, which when is there not in a YA fantasy, but yeah, I'm really excited to get to this one as well. And move forward to fantasy. And no sorries this month, so I will only be reading 5 books, or at least I will only have 5 books on my TBR, and the 5th and final book on my TBR, or the 5th prompt that I landed on was to read a fantasy, and for this I'm going to be reading Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I have a few friends from college who are reading The Final Empire and the first, what is it called, like the first generation Mistborn series right now, and they reached out to me and they were like, hey, you should read these books with us. It would be a lot of fun. So I want to read Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere in publication date order. This is the first book published, so I'm hoping to read this as well as The Hope of Elantris, which I believe is the short story that comes directly after this, or that was published directly after this. I don't know where I'm going to find that. I'm going to have to like scour it up somewhere. Maybe I'll buy it on Kindle. I don't know. But yes, this is what I'm hoping to read, and it's not as big, it doesn't look as big as I thought it would. Oh, it's like 600 pages, so scratch that, it is pretty big. I think having Wanderers right next to it makes everything look kind of small, but I am really excited to read this. I don't know very much about it, but it's, I think, a fallen city, and Elantris was beautiful once. It was called the City of Gods, a place of power, radiance, and magic. Visitors say that the very stones glowed with an inner light, and that the city contained wondrous arcane marvels. At night, Elantris shone like a great silvery fire, visible even from a great distance. Okay. So apparently there used to be magic people in this place, and anyone could become one. The shroud could take beggar, craftsman, nobleman, or warrior. When it came, the fortunate person's life ended and began anew. He would discard his old mundane existence, and move to Elantris. Elantris, where he could live in bliss, rule in wisdom, and be worshipped for eternity. Eternity ended 10 years ago. So yes, I think this is similar to The Final Empire, where it's like the Great War thing has already happened, and this is like a post-end of the world type thing. I don't know. I'm going to find out, and I'm going to let you know. I'm really excited to read this. I'm excited to finally get some Brandon Sanderson under my belt. And so those are the books that Sari picked for me this month. I'm also participating in the May the Force Read With You Readathon, which was started by Eric over at Breakeven Books. I'll leave his channel and announcement video linked down below in case you would like to join us, but it's a Star Wars themed readathon. I'm not going to go through all the prompts, but you basically pick light side or dark side, and then you follow the 5 prompts from those. And there's also 5 neutral prompts, so in case you don't want to do some of the light side or dark side, whichever side you chose, you can substitute the neutral ones, and then there's bonus prompts. So I'm going to be on the light side, because I liked more of those prompts better, if that makes sense. So the first prompt that I'm planning on completing is Force Spirit, which is a book with paranormal aspects. And I'm going to use The Damned because vampires, it's a vampire romance. So this is what I'm going to be reading for that prompt. The next prompt is Healing, a book from your favorite genre. Sci-fi, like hard science sci-fi is my favorite genre, I think. I'm going to say that's my favorite genre. I don't really have a favorite genre, but of the books that I've read that I enjoy the most, I feel like I'm always drawn to reading like sci-fi. So I'm going to be, it's upside down. I'm going to be reading This Is How You Lose the Time War for that prompt. And then Cleansed is a book with a white cover. So for that, I'm going to be reading We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I'm so sorry. I know I'm pronouncing her name wrong. But that book is white with like gold geometric patterns sort of on it, or maybe yellow. I don't really remember, but that was the other reason I picked that for that prompt, because it was a white book, or a book with like a white background on the cover, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm reading for that one. The fourth one is Force Vision, which is a book set in the future or the past. So basically like a sci-fi or a historical fiction. And for this one, I'm gonna be reading Wanderers by Chuck Wendig because I believe this is set in the future, in like a post-apocalyptic future or a current apocalyptic future. If it turns out that I'm wrong about that, I do have a historical fiction that I'm supposed to be reading in April, but spoiler alert, I'm not getting to it, and it's The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. So I'm not gonna get to it, I'm sorry. If this turns out is not set in the future, then I will read that as a book set in the past. The last of the like 5 prompts that I'm gonna be reading is Midi-chlorians, which is to read a middle grade. And for this, I'm so excited to have finally picked up Amari and the Night Brothers. This is a middle grade fantasy about this young girl, Amari, whose older brother goes missing, I believe, and she finds in his closet a briefcase that is blinking or beeping or something, and then she gets whisked away to this like magical land, and I think she finds out she has powers. I think it has a little bit of like a magic school element to it. I could be wrong. I don't know a ton about this except for that everybody loves it, and I'm really, really excited to finally get to this. Very excited for that one, and a middle grade will be nice and light, and I don't feel that bad adding things to my TBR because, again, it is so small. Last month, if you missed it, I'll link it somewhere for you. I had 13 books to read, which is why I did not get to all of them. It's been a disaster. And then the bonus prompts are the allies. So you have to read 5 books to like get through the different ranks. Again, I'll link Eric's video down below because he can explain it much better than I can. I just took from that, read books from 5 of the prompts, and that's what I'm doing. But for allies, the first ally is Rebel Alliance. And for that, you're supposed to read a book within a rebellion. For some reason, I think this has a rebellion element to it. If it doesn't, then it doesn't, and I'm wrong. And I won't count points for that, but it's just, you know, a readathon for fun. So it's not that serious. So you can let me know if this does or does not have a rebellion element to it, but this is what I sort of planned to read for that. The next one is Resistance, and it's a book from your least favorite genre. And for this, I picked Bonfire by Kristen Ritter because I think this is a like a legal thriller. And if you don't know, I'm in law school, so I don't know how I'm gonna feel reading a legal thriller as someone who is studying the law, because I feel like a lot of times they're not super accurate to how things would actually go, but it is like fiction, so I understand that, but this is, I'm hesitant to read this. Also, this is written by Kristen Ritter, who's an actress, and I'm always hesitant to read like famous people's fiction books, because I'm like, is it gonna be any good? I don't know. But this is what I'm planning on reading for that. This is like my least favorite genre that I'm like okay with still reading, if that makes sense. The third and final ally is Contract Kill, and that is a book that was recommended to you by someone else. And I haven't decided what I'm gonna read for this one, if I even get to it. I have a whole video where people recommended me books on that, so I might read a book from that. And the final thing for this readathon is that there is a group read of An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. I didn't pick that up from my library today, I literally just went, and I forgot to get the group read, so I don't know if I'm gonna be reading that or not. I'm not prioritizing it, just because I want to read that series eventually, but I don't really care about reading it right now, if that makes sense. And I'm in the middle of a lot of series right now. So, I think with my current stack, I think I've got enough on my plate. But should I finish all of these and feel like reading another book, maybe I'll try to pick up An Ember in the Ashes. We'll just have to see. But that is going to be it for my May / May the Force Read With You readathon TBR. So let me know down below if you've read any of these books and how you felt about them. Also, let me know if you are also participating in the May the Force Read With You readathon. I would be interested to hear who else is reading or who else is participating in that and what you are reading for it. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos from me, you can go ahead and subscribe. I do post 2 videos every single week. I've got some kind of exciting stuff coming, so I'm hoping that you guys enjoy the content that's coming for you. But that's gonna be it for me today, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!